What's going on, guys? Multiverse Corrupt here with yet another action figure review video, and today we are having a look at Solomon Grundy Build-A-Figure from McFarlane Toys. Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday, christened on Tuesday, married on Wednesday. So right here, guys, is Grundy fully assembled, and I think in terms of the look, he looks pretty amazing. When it comes to his feel, he feels extremely cheap. I'm not really sure what it is, what type of plastic or whatever they did to this guy, but he just feels extremely hollow. I mean, in terms of the last Build-A-Figure we saw with Atrocitus, he feels thick, he feels full, he feels like a well put together figure. When it comes to Solomon Grundy and his top heaviness, as you can see, he's kind of rocking back and forth on this turntable. I don't really know what's going on there. I think it's pretty goofy though. But he just feels extremely cheap. That right there is just my first-hand impressions, but we'll dive deeper into that when we get into the detail. So with all that said though, guys, let's go ahead and take Solomon Grundy off of the rotating turntable and take a closer look at the detail. When it comes to Solomon Grundy's detail, guys, like I said, this guy does look amazing. They really did knock this guy out of the park in terms of the sculpt and detail. Starting off with the head here, I love the torn off lip, but I do feel like his teeth are way too white. They should have been a dingy yellow color that shows that this guy has been dead / undead for a while. He is this big, hulking monster of a figure and a monster of a man, and he should be absolutely disgusting, completely deteriorated like we saw from the Arkham City video game. Looking at the top of his head, I do kind of like the hair that they give him here, although it kind of strikes me more as frosted tips and not so much as dead hair that's bleached white. It kind of makes me think of this guy right here, Jack Frost from the Santa Claus 3, instead of the Solomon Grundy hair, which even in the game, if I recall correctly, was pretty slicked back. I could be wrong, but I do kind of remember him having slicked back hair. But I do love the piercing yellow eyes and just this big monster of a face looking back at you. Looking at his chest here, guys, and his jacket is able to come off. So give me 1 second. Just like that, guys, his jacket does come off, and you can just see all of the detail that they put into this guy in terms of the veins and deteriorating skin. Like there's a big gash right there in his chest. I would say I really would love to see like some blood or some type of nasty oozing green liquid like we have here coming out of these cuts that he has. And as you can tell without the jacket on, this guy does not skip his shoulder press. This guy is a big hulking figure of a man, and I do have an Incredible Hulk figure, so we'll see what he looks like sized up next to him. Going over here to his back though, guys, I understand that he has this jacket which is fully detailed, but his back just feels kind of lackluster. It's just kind of a bunch of scrapes and scuffs all over the back, but not really something you would see on the back of a person, dead or alive. It's just kind of a bunch of scratch marks, and that's really it. No veins, no muscular detail back here that I am seeing, unless I'm just as blind as a bat. Flipping him over here to his arms now, guys, he does of course have the cut all the way around his arms showing he was reassembled. And then going down here to these chains, I am not a big fan of these chains. First of all, I do think that they are an ugly brown color, and they're just kind of crappy. They're just this flimsy plastic, and I'm not a big fan of them. One hand is open, one hand is closed, obviously, and they did do a fairly good job with the veins throughout the hands and the fingers themselves. Going down here to his pants now, guys, he does have this rope that is tied off in the front. I would have loved to see this rope a little bit of a softer plastic than this little thick stuff here. I feel like over time you will strain it and it will eventually snap off, so I would be cautious about that. But just the pants alone, guys, I do love the detail that they put into it. You feel that fabric-y kind of feeling throughout the figure, and just the rips and tears all throughout him as well. I say all throughout, but there is none on the back, none on the back of the thighs or anything like that. They're just strictly to the knees, kind of like an Incredible Hulk knockoff, which he kind of is. Going down here to the feet now, guys, he does have these dirty little toes here for him, and he does have veins all throughout his leg and his feet. So the lower half of this figure did not go untouched. It did not go unloved. So I do love the fact that they did put this amount of detail into the figure. But like I said, guys, I don't know what it is. This dude just feels super freaking hollow and he feels super cheap. I don't know what it is about this wave as a whole, but it just feels like they really went the cheaper route with these figures. Taking a little bit of a closer look at his jacket, guys, hopefully he doesn't fall over on me. But taking a closer look at his jacket, guys, I do love how this jacket looks. I love the ripped off sleeves, and just the overall coat is absolutely beautiful. I love the wrinkles all throughout it, and it does have that texture all throughout the entire figure, and even the wash marks. I do love the wash marks as well. Gives it kind of a more realistic look of a tattered and torn coat, so it does look fantastic. With all that said though, guys, let's go ahead and move away from the detail and take a closer look at Solomon Grundy's articulation, size, and size comparison. When it comes to how tall Solomon Grundy stands, guys, Solomon Grundy does stand about 8¼ inches tall, and he's kind of creeping up on 8.5, and maybe that's just the angle I'm looking at, but he is closer to 8¼ inches tall. So he is a little bit taller than the 7-inch scale, but me personally, I feel that just this picture alone right here from the game, Solomon Grundy is a massive monster of a character. So I really do feel like they should have gave him the 10 to 11-inch scale, but we'll just have to suck it up and deal with the 8¼ Moving the camera in closer, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at his articulation, starting off with the head. Now, his head is kind of blocked by the collar up here, so he doesn't really look up that well. Let's go ahead and click his head back on here. He does look up about that far, and he looks down about that far, which is non-existent at all. So that is a bit of a letdown, being that he is supposed to be this monster of a beast, but he can't even look down to look Batman in the eye. Thanks to the ball joint, he does rotate his head, but I would be careful. He does pop off. This collar really does get in the way. So I do feel like if you were to take the jacket off, you might get some more. So let's go ahead and take the jacket off again. Alrighty, guys, the jacket is off, so let's start over and see if it improves his head articulation. His head articulation goes up about that far, gives me just a little bit more from what it looks like, but of course, he still doesn't really look down. Thanks to the ball joint, you can rotate his head all the way around, although it still pops off. That is a bit of a bummer. So the jacket gets in the way only a little bit. It doesn't make that much of a difference, so let's go ahead and push forward on this articulation. When it comes to his arms go out about that far, and they do rotate all the way around, but if he was wearing his jacket, they do have these little thick shoulder pads here from where his sleeves are ripped off, so it will get in the way. No bicep swivel. He does have single hinged elbows. When it comes to his wrist articulation, guys, his wrists do rotate all the way around, but watch out for the chain. It might scuff over time. And they do, of course, have a bit of a hinge right here that goes all the way up to the palm of his hand. Moving over here to his ab crunch, guys. His ab crunch is non-existent, but he does have a bunch of waist swivel, and his waist does rotate all the way around. His legs, of course, do kick out about that far, and they kick back about that far, so not at all. If I was to pull any more, then his leg would simply just come off, although I feel like I got it pretty snug that time, so I got lucky. Going down here to his knees now, guys, his knees are also on a single hinge as well, and his ankles do have that new ankle joint in there, so they do articulate down, they articulate up. He does, of course, have toe articulation, and he does, of course, have the beautiful ankle pivot that we all know and love. With all that said, though, guys, let's go ahead and move away from the articulation and zoom in to check out that size comparison. When it comes to size comparison, guys, starting it off is, of course, Batman from the same wave. And I just feel that Solomon Grundy is too short. Right here, guys, is Catwoman. Once again, is just too tall compared to Solomon Grundy. Here's the picture again. He is supposed to be this big, hulking beast of a man, an undead zombie. Even the characters like Ra's al Ghul and even the Penguin, I just feel like they are too tall. Solomon Grundy is just way too small in this wave. I understand having to make it in figure form. You're just kind of spitballing or eyeballing. But if you just look at the concept images or just the game itself, he is this massive beast. And these characters sized up next to him will obviously defeat him with ease. Not saying he was difficult to begin with, but they're just too tall. He is too small. We need to have a monster of a beast. Now right here, guys, is a Build-A-Figure done right. Atrocitus, towering over Solomon Grundy. I feel that if you would have gave Solomon Grundy the beefiness that he has with Atrocitus' size, or maybe just a little bit taller, that would have been the perfect Solomon Grundy figure. This detail with that size, that one right there, that would have been 10 out of 10, hands down, no matter how cheap the figure felt. But it just feels like it was rushed. It's a bit of a disappointment. Right here, guys, we do, of course, have the NECA Toys Alpha Predator next to Solomon Grundy, who also towers over Grundy. Unfortunately, I cannot harp on that enough. And last but not least, guys, I bet you thought it was going to be Marvel Legends Mr. Fantastic, but here we have the Marvel Legends Incredible Hulk. I believe this is the 80th anniversary one. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's either the 80th or the 20th. Don't shred me down in the comments. But here we have him next to Solomon Grundy. They do stand about the same height, so maybe this is what McFarlane was going for. Maybe some fun images here, a fun little fight scene for Instagram, which is definitely going to happen on mine. But here they are, side by side. They fit perfectly, so it's going to be a nice photo shoot coming soon. Alrighty, guys, and there you have it. Another action figure review video in the books on my channel for you guys to enjoy. When it comes to my review on this Solomon Grundy figure, I'm going to have to give him a solid 5.5 out of 10. I really wanted to give him more because that detail is undeniably beautiful. It is borderline perfect. But since there is no accessories, I really would have loved to see the wrecking balls he used inside the game. And there is just the size problem that we have here. I can only give him a 5.5. Also, not to mention, he just feels extremely cheap. He feels like I can take him and just snap him in half in my hands. Granted, he's plastic. Wouldn't be that difficult anyway, but that is beside the point. He should not feel that flimsy. I feel like he's an egg. If I drop him, he's gonna shatter. That's just how he feels to me. When it comes to this whole Build-A-Figure wave as a whole, I can only give it a 5 out of 10. The wave has some saving grace. Batman, perfect. Ra's al Ghul, almost perfect. But Selena Kyle, the Penguin, and Solomon Grundy, they just feel extremely cheap. I can't describe it enough, guys. They just feel extremely cheap. That is, of course, my opinion. It could be different from yours. With all that said, though, guys, I am going to be taking a quick holiday break, spend some time with the wife and kids, go out of town, do some crazy stuff for Christmas. But I will be back for the new year, and I will see you guys there. And I promise, guys, I've seen some of your comments. I have seen your complaints on Instagram. We will do so much more than just McFarlane Toys. Granted, McFarlane is one of my favorite toy makers, so I will still be pushing the McFarlane stuff, whether that is Spawn and the Mortal Kombat figures as well. But we will take a deep dive into more Diamond Select toys, and we will even be bringing back the Flashback Fridays and Marvel Legends. With all that said, though, guys, I really do hope you have a great holiday weekend, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I will see you in the next video. Later.